There are billions of Earth-sized planets, some potentially habitable ones orbiting around stars like the Sun, and yet we are alone. Hey everyone, welcome back to Care Fiction. I'm your host Subhankar. Today we are going to look into the 2019 movie Ad Astra and its possible connection to a very widely popular scientific theory, the Fermi Paradox. Ad Astra, which is the Latin for To the Stars, is a 2019 hard science fiction movie directed by James Gray, starring Brad Pitt in the lead role. It features some stunning visuals by Hoyte Van Hoytema and tries to portray a realistic depiction of space travel as envisioned by the director. However, that is still debatable, as there are discussions on the space travel realism depicted in this movie. Let's get some things cleared up. The movie bombed in the box office, but it was a critical hit and has garnered a lot of accolades, and I think it deserves those. I believe that in the pantheon of the science fiction movies, Ad Astra deserves a special place, not because it is groundbreaking or anything like that, but because it subverts a commonly found science fiction trope in movies. The way that it builds the narrative to come to the end, I was pretty surprised, and for that I adore this movie. If you haven't watched this movie yet, I would suggest that you should do so. So let us look how the science of Ad Astra could be related to the Fermi Paradox. Before we begin, please take a few seconds of your time and hit the like button if you have loved this video. And if you have not done it yet, please consider subscribing. First of all, there is a lot of science behind this movie, but we are going to focus on just one particular one. So as the story goes, Roy McBride, played by Brad Pitt, goes in search of his father Clifford McBride, played by Tommy Lee Jones, who is presumed dead after a failed mission to search for intelligent life in the far reaches of the universe. He finally meets his father near Neptune, where he is very much alive, although a bit paranoid and less sociable. And finally we get the big reveal, to which I will return later. But first, let us look into the Fermi Paradox. Conjectured by the physicist Enrico Fermi, hence the name, the Fermi Paradox is a scientific argument that contradicts the existence of extraterrestrial civilizations based on the lack of evidence. And to put it simply, it boils down to one question: where are the aliens? The paradox is sometimes fondly known as the Great Silence, and depending on who you ask, there are several versions of the story behind its formulation. There is one version which takes place in 1950 at Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico. In this version, one fine day at lunch, there sat four people: Enrico Fermi, Emil Konopinski, Edward Teller, and Herbert York. They were discussing stuffs like UFOs, probability of faster than light travel, the usual lunch talk. And then Enrico Fermi asked, where are they? Over the years, there have been numerous debatable signs that point to extraterrestrial existence, like the WOW signal, a mysterious radio signal received by the SETI, the highly speculated interstellar object known as Oumuamua, and so on. But none of these provide any concrete proof, and thus we keep asking ourselves again and again, where are they? The Fermi Paradox can be further visualized by breaking it down into two parts that rely on empirical evidence. The first part is that there are potentially habitable planets. And that is true because there are billions of habitable exoplanets in our galaxy. And the second part is very simple. There is no existence of extraterrestrial life. So why is there no evidence so far? Why the silence? Well, there is a profusion of explanations for this question, but we are going to look at a few prominent ones. Imagine how we humans have evolved. Now consider the same for other intelligent life forms from other planets. So probably there may be a certain critical stage in the process where they have failed to evolve further and consequently they ceased to exist. That is a great filter, and that could explain the lack of communication because there is no one out there to communicate with. Consider how complex as a life form we humans are, biologically speaking. The reproduction process, the evolution of multicellular organisms, and such other evolutionary processes. Some say that it is extremely rare to find this kind of evolution elsewhere, and perhaps this is unique to Earth, an assumption which is known as rare Earth hypothesis. While others argue that although complex life is possible elsewhere, depends on how you define complex intelligence such as building civilizations is not. I am desperately waiting for this theory to be debunked. This theory suggests that although there may be intelligent life, but they have not reached the level of technological advancement necessary to communicate. So that would make it difficult for us to detect them too. Now there is also a polar opposite explanation of this theory, one which is very ominous even for us. This states that technologically advanced civilizations invariably destroy themselves at some stage. So, what this means is there may have been a highly intelligent life somewhere in the universe who developed technology that is way beyond our imagination. And eventually, that same thing led to their extinction. I think this sounds familiar, right? This explanation broadly covers the possibility that extraterrestrial intelligent life do exist, but we have not looked for them at the right places or listened to their communication properly. They may also be so far away that we don't have the resources right now to look for them. Either way, finding intelligent life is difficult. I have saved the best for the last. If you have watched Star Trek, then you would remember that they have a prime directive which refrains them from interfering with evolutionary and socio-cultural development of civilizations in other planets. Basically meaning, never reveal your existence to them. This explanation is the same, that extraterrestrial life has not contacted Earth for the same reasons and has been merely observing us from somewhere just as we observe animals in a zoo. Hence the name Zoo Hypothesis. So that was just a brief explanation of the Fermi Paradox. While the movie never mentions the Fermi Paradox, but we can relate that from the end reveal made by Clifford McBride. And here is a huge spoiler coming. So, the big reveal is that all the data that they have collected so far shows no sign of intelligent life, or to simply put it, no aliens. This would come as a surprise for anyone, because this is the exact opposite of science fiction movies dealing with aliens. And that is why I love this movie. However, this reveal is quashed by the emotional significance of Roy meeting his long-lost father. You see, Ad Astra is more than just a science fiction movie about alien search. It is a character-driven story emphasizing themes like loneliness, mental health, impact of space travel, and represents space in a rather bleak and lonely manner. Or maybe the apparent take on the Fermi Paradox or the Great Silence is an allegory to our own silence and distance from others. Just my thoughts. So that is for this video. Thank you for watching and do let me know how you feel about this movie. See you soon.